Welcome everyone to this Ethical Point Explainer. I'm your host, and today we're diving into what is literally the ultimate test of a civil servant's moral compass. We're going to decode a super complex UPSC General Studies Paper 4 case study. Joining me to play the skeptic and to keep us all grounded in the real world is my co-host.
Hey everyone, I am so ready for this. On paper, ethics can seem kind of abstract, but when you put a desperate, bleeding human being on one side and strict national security on the other, wow, the philosophy gets very real, very fast.
Exactly, and that's exactly why we're breaking this scenario down step by step. By the end of this explainer, you're going to know exactly how to structure a top-tier 20-mark mains case study answer. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the border crisis dilemma itself, then we'll map out the stakeholders, debate the administrative options, and navigate the ethical legal conflicts. After that, we'll hit the security protocols and finally wrap it all up with our UPSC answer writing strategy. All right, Section 1, the border crisis dilemma. Let's look at this administrative emergency. Before we get into any philosophy or theory, we really need to establish the facts on the ground. Right, and the facts here are just pure chaos. So picture this. You are Ashok. You're the Divisional Commissioner of a border district. Right across the border, a military coup has sparked a brutal civil war. It's the middle of the night, the weather is absolute garbage, and you get a frantic report from the local police. There are around 250 people, mostly women and children, at your checkpost, just begging to cross. Some are bleeding profusely. They need immediate medical care. And to make matters worse, the storm has completely knocked out your communications. You cannot reach the Home Secretary for orders. You are literally on your own. And then there's this wild card variable, 10.
Yeah, this is absolutely the critical friction point of the entire case study.
For sure, because mixed in with these vulnerable, injured civilians are exactly 10 heavily armed foreign soldiers in full military uniform, also demanding entry. So suddenly this isn't just a humanitarian rescue operation anymore. It's a massive, highly volatile security threat. Section 2, mapping the stakeholders. Let's figure out who wants what. In any GS Paper 4 dilemma, systematically identifying the stakeholders and their core concerns is your mandatory first move. I mean, you can't solve a problem until you know exactly whose interests are clashing, right? It's actually fascinating how clearly these competing interests contrast when you lay them out. Look at Ashok right at the top. His core dilemma is weighing a rigid, by-the-book approach to border security against a virtue ethics approach of pure humanitarianism.
Right, and then look at the refugees. Their interest is as simple as it gets. The right to life. They just want medical care so they can survive the night. But those 10 foreign soldiers, they have a totally different issue. They want safety, sure, but their status as armed combatants complicates the whole shebang.
Meanwhile, your security forces are strictly focused on border integrity, period. The state and central government are worried about national sovereignty and the massive diplomatic fallout that could happen with the neighboring military regime.
And let's not forget the local community at the bottom of the list. They are terrified about their own limited resources getting drained and this civil war violently spilling over right into their backyards.
Section 3, debating administrative options. Let's see about finding the middle path. With all those conflicting interests mapped out, let's look at the immediate actions Ashok could actually take in the dead of night. Well, the extremes are always the easiest to argue, aren't they? Take option 2, unconditional entry. Just open the gates. People are bleeding. You can't just stand there and watch children die because the phone lines happen to be down. You have to show some compassion.
I totally hear you, but let's play that out. If you do that, you've just allowed 10 unvetted, heavily armed foreign soldiers to march right into Indian territory. That is a massive infiltration risk. So look at option 1, strict border closure. You refuse everyone entry because you don't have orders from the boss.
Yeah, but if you do that, civilians literally bleed to death against your fence. That completely violates basic human rights. So both of these extreme approaches have fatal flaws. Exactly. Which brings us to a crucial philosophical concept you absolutely must use in your answer: the ethics of care. Let's give a quick layman's definition here. Simply put, it's the moral duty to help people who are in immediate distress right in front of you. It argues that saving human life, especially the injured and vulnerable, completely overrides cold, bureaucratic rule following. This is the exact framework compelling Ashok to act. And this brilliantly illustrates how we arrive at the optimized middle path solution: humanitarian segregation and conditional entry.
Right, so instead of a hard yes or no, Ashok creates a designated neutral zone near the border. He lets the women, the children, and the injured in for immediate life-saving medical aid.
Yes, and crucially, he disarms and detains those 10 military personnel entirely separately. Then, he secures the area and waits for communication to be restored.
This fulfills the human dignity mandate of Article 21, but it doesn't compromise state sovereignty.
Moving to Section 4, navigating ethical legal conflicts. Let's talk about law versus compassion. Because, okay, that sounds like a fantastic plan on the ground, but legally, Ashok is making some huge executive decisions here without his boss's approval. Let's look at the international law side of this. Good point. Let's talk about the principle of non-refoulement. Layman's definition time again. Basically, this is an international norm saying you cannot push a refugee back across the border if doing so means they're going to face torture or death. You can't send them back into the meat grinder.
But here is the massive catch. For Ashok, India is not actually a signatory to the 1951 Refugee Convention.
Correct. So while it's customary international law, domestically it creates a massive legal gray area. Unauthorized entry technically violates our immigration laws, which puts Ashok in a really, really tough spot. And what about the guys with the guns? I mean, you can't just slap a bandage on a foreign soldier and call him a refugee.
Yeah, absolutely not. And that's where the Hague Convention comes in, creating a complete legal minefield. If armed soldiers cross into neutral territory, international law dictates they must be interned, which basically means detained and disarmed. So they can't use your soil as a base to launch attacks back home. Ashok has to treat them as combatants, not refugees.
So the crucial point here is this classic bureaucratic clash: procedural compliance versus administrative responsibility. It's the Kantian strict duty to follow the rules versus the utilitarian consequence of actually saving lives.
Meaning, do you wait around for the proper paperwork from the Home Secretary, or do you take the initiative to stop people from dying right in front of you?
Exactly. It's the ultimate test of compassion versus vigilance. A true moral leader realizes that when the phone lines go down, your administrative responsibility to preserve human life supersedes strict procedural delays. Now, Section 5, Security Protocols. Let's run through the administrative checklist, because taking initiative doesn't mean being reckless. Let's transition from theoretical ethics to a tangible, boots-on-the-ground action plan. Right, if you are letting anyone in, the border guarding police need a flawless standard operating procedure. And here is that exact, uncompromising checklist. Step 1, disarm those 10 soldiers instantly and lock up all weapons. Step 2, separate the military from the civilians entirely. Step 3, start identity verification, like are these genuine deserters or are they spies? Step 4, enforce a total communication blackout so they can't coordinate with rebels across the border. Step 5, get intelligence agencies involved immediately. And Step 6, trigger heightened surveillance along the rest of the border because, hey, if these guys fled, an enemy pursuit team might be right behind them. Spot on. Finally, Section 6, UPSC answer writing strategy. Let's talk about scoring high. We need to translate all this brilliant analysis into a killer conclusion for your exam. Listen, if you want to seriously impress an examiner, anchor your answer with this phrase: strategic compassion. I absolutely love this term. It shows you aren't just blindly emotional, but you also aren't some heartless robot. By creating a neutral holding zone, Ashok meets the humanitarian needs, but, and this is key, the decision is completely reversible. If the Home Secretary finally calls and says, send them back, Ashok hasn't let them vanish into the local population. Beautifully put. And if you're looking for the ultimate concluding sentence for your mains paper, this quote derived directly from our source material is just perfection. The highest form of governance is where security and humanity reinforce rather than undermine each other. That perfectly encapsulates Ashok's balanced approach of saving lives first, while simultaneously securing the border. We can't let you go without a little homework, though. Consider this final provocative thought. Let's say the storm clears, the phone rings, and the Home Secretary explicitly orders Ashok to forcefully push those bleeding women and children back across the fence. What does an officer do then? When a direct legal order completely conflicts with your moral compass and basic human rights, where are the true limits of administrative obedience? Man, that is a phenomenal question, and it's exactly the kind of critical thinking you need to bring to GS Paper 4. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, everyone. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and we will see you next time on Ethical Point.